Hello, I am Dr. Mirela Chernayanu, and I welcome you to the Wellness Optimizing Warrior MD podcast, the WOW MD podcast. I am not your typical wellness coach, and this is not a typical wellness podcast. Here, I'll discuss educational facts about health, hormones, intimacy, anti-aging, and beauty trends, all very hot topics, to empower you to make great choices when it comes to your health and to your body. I want you to go, wow, I did not know that. Or, wow, this is going to make a great difference for me. Our healthcare system is broken and it needs a revolution. You and I can start one today. I am willing to share my knowledge with the world if you're willing to listen. Let's get started. I wanted to dedicate a podcast episode about how to prepare for menopause. And I know there's nothing really out there. No one is talking about preparation for menopause. There is no such thing really. Nobody's giving you a crash course in menopause, what it is, how to prepare for it, how to have a better menopause. We all know that there are hormones, and ultimately that's not what the podcast is about, today's episode, but it's more about how to prepare for menopause, and is there such a thing as preparation for menopause? So it's going to go into today's episode and next week's episode, so it's a 2-episode topic. And again, just to reiterate, I don't know that there's anything out there to prepare any women for menopause and to prepare the men for women in their life going through menopause. Now, it is a very controversial topic. A lot of people focus on, are you going to need hormones or not? That's number one. And number two is, are hormones safe to use after menopause or not? Now, very few smart providers and doctors or people that care about discussing and approaching this topic, the menopause topic, talk about doing anything to get ready for it. Well, and I just want to mention something here. If it's one thing that we women know how to do well in life, and we do it very well sometimes, unfortunately, it's procrastination. I am personally extremely guilty of this, and I can be a great procrastinator myself. But I know when I see in the majority of my patients how they procrastinate until they cannot procrastinate anymore. Now, what in God's name am I talking about procrastination at the beginning of a podcast episode on how to prepare for menopause? Well, because if you procrastinate and avoid and delay, and you're like, I'm just going to deal with it when I go through it, and you ignore that this is a major transition in your life, you're not going to be prepared for menopause in any way, shape, or form. So here's one thing that you need in order to prepare for menopause. You have to have awareness. You have to have awareness of what menopause is. You have to have awareness that it's coming, that it's a very, very clear, like a line in the sand that somebody has drawn for you and you have to go over it. And then you have to have an awareness of when perimenopause is going to hit you as a woman, because that is a big, big, big topic. And I'll address both of these and how they're different. So keep listening. Now, perimenopause is this transitional period between normal adult life as a woman and menopause. So it's a transition. And this transition between normal, everything's great, until, holy crap, I got no hormones. This transition, perimenopause, most experts agree, is described as lasting anywhere from 2 to 10 years or more. The 2 years is somewhat unrealistic. It's not 2 years. Nobody goes from 48 to 50 years of age in, I got great hormones, so I got no hormones. More likely, perimenopause, it's 10 years or more. And interestingly enough, women are not studied, and women's health is not at the top and forefront of all these hormonal studies that should really be happening to understand what is going on with women after the age of late 30s to early 50s, that interesting transition when hormones are changing. So let me be more clear about menopause. Menopause is not really a phase. Okay, menopause is the rest of your life once estrogen production from your ovaries is gone and down to usually almost zero. We like to use the term postmenopause in the medical world as a clear distinction between someone who does not have 1 year any estrogen. So for 1 year, for 12 months, you make no estrogen. All right. So in clinical world and in clinical terms and for regular people means you have no period spontaneously on your own in the absence of any treatment. And that means you're menopausal. Okay. So that's the difference and the distinction between someone who does not have estrogen for 1 year and someone who does. Someone who still makes some random little estrogen here might have 1 period a year or 4 periods a year for a few years. She's not postmenopausal. So technically she's going through what we call menopause. Really, that is menopause. But in reality, they're still perimenopausal. So the reality is perimenopause is before menopause. And that means hormonal decline. You still make estrogen. The menopause is when there is no estrogen. Your estrogen is zero and for 12 months. And then there's postmenopause. When you had 12 months of no estrogen and beyond, you postmenopause. So menopause is that 1 year of no estrogen. It's more like we draw a little line in the sand when you had your last period. Then we draw a little line in the sand. Oh, it's been a year and now it's postmenopause. So now that I made these terms clear, so perimenopause, it's before menopause, while your periods go all crazy and come and go whenever. You might have, again, anywhere from 10 to 1 a year. As long as you still have some unpredictable bleeding happening spontaneously, again, with no hormones, no estrogens, that means it's perimenopause. And then when you have no more periods whatsoever, for 12 months, you are officially through that double line zone in the sand, and now you're postmenopausal. What is not being talked about, and what you might not hear anywhere other than here in the WOW podcast, the Wellness Optimizing Warrior podcast, is that this transition from excellent, normal, predictable, regular monthly estrogen production to zero estrogen equals menopause is absolutely natural. And again, likely not 2 to 3 years, likely a lot longer, because this transition is an actual decline in your ovarian function from the normal output of healthy, normal eggs once a month to older, lower quality, unpredictable eggs every month or every other month, less and less frequent until no more eggs are produced. Women do not go from a great reserve of eggs to no eggs overnight unless they receive chemo or radiation or some other toxin that destroys their eggs. All women should know that the eggs' quantity and quality will decline after late 30s. That is a very well-known fact and is very accepted in medicine. Now, do all the doctors talk to women in their 30s or late 30s that, hello, you don't have any children. Are you planning to have any? Oh, yeah. Well, then you should test your ovarian reserve. So I don't see that happening personally and that might have been 20 years ago. Maybe there wasn't so much awareness about the testing for ovarian reserve called anti-Mullerian hormone test. I was never offered that test in my late 30s, and I was unmarried but wanting to have children. So should I have been offered that test, I would have done it, and I would have found out my ovarian reserve is low. I would have taken some steps. So why are we doctors not telling women that their egg decline starts in their late 30s? That is the truth. It is harder to get pregnant when your eggs are older and your eggs have lower quality, because the internal defense natural mechanism will likely reject most embryos of poor genetic quality before you're even aware you might have a pregnancy for a few days. And then it's gone. It comes like a little late period. You think, okay, my period was late. Those are called chemical pregnancies. You pick it up on a blood test, a pee test, but you get a period within a few days after it's positive, and you wonder what happened. Was I really pregnant? Yes. It's just that the body did not allow it to progress, probably because the embryo was genetically compromised. So I made a little parenthesis here with the eggs so you can understand that we don't go from awesome eggs to zero eggs. from 0 to 60, right? In a couple of seconds, like a Porsche, just in reverse. It takes time. And that time and that period is actually perimenopause. So let me continue this discussion of menopause and perimenopause awareness with more information that will make it clear for you if you're a young woman wondering what is in store for the next 1 to 2 decades. How do you know you are confronted with perimenopause? Well, once you pass 35, you might be in it or approaching it. And there are clear signs and symptoms, and I'm going to keep talking about them, so keep listening in this podcast. But the first thing you need to know is be aware of what it looks like and what it feels like. And sometimes you don't know that, and there's not a whole lot of time during your wellness exam or whatever that is, the annual physical exam you have with your doctor, your annual pap smear. And your doctor doesn't really tell you, hey, listen, watch out for these crazy mood swings, or your energy gets a lot lower, or it might really crash during your period, or watch out for headaches, watch out for irregular periods, watch out for vaginal dryness, watch out for loss of sexual desire, watch out for weight gain, watch out for some hot flashes that might hit you here and there. No one talks about what to watch out for. Now, once you've passed 35 to 40, you probably need to start listening to podcasts. Maybe like the one you're already listening to. So if you feel like that's resonating with you, please forward these episodes to someone who might benefit from them. A friend, a family member. Maybe you want to read some books, and maybe you want to start educating yourself and understanding that everything you might have taken for granted for the past 25 years or so, since the age of 12, 11, or 13, since you started having a period, is going away and changing. And your body will change right along with your hormones. I spent a lot of time in my fertility podcast series discussing ovarian reserve. So if you'd like to know more about ovarian reserve, what it is, how to preserve it, then please go back and listen to my fertility episode about the ovarian factor. It's very telling and it has a lot of information. Now, here's the key thing. The more eggs you have, the longer you will be able to have natural estrogen, natural progesterone, and testosterone produced in your body. That is why women with polycystic ovaries who recruit and make a lot of eggs have more estrogen and more testosterone than any other women. They also, unfortunately, have longer exposure during their lifetime to estrogen, and most of the times they have exposure to unbalanced estrogen dominance, because polycystic ovaries, unfortunately, don't always predictably ovulate. And you cannot have progesterone without ovulation. So these PCOS patients are estrogen dominant. Again, by definition, many women with polycystic ovaries are estrogen dominant, which is not good. I've talked about this before. Obviously, you have previous episodes about all kinds of things mentioning PCOS and estrogen dominance, especially my first episodes when I started talking about hormones back in August of 2023, I believe. So being estrogen dominant for the great majority of your life will set you up for a much higher risk of uterine cancer and possibly breast cancer as well, and that is no joke. So if you're listening to the podcast thinking, oh, I wish I had polycystic ovaries, I would have eggs for so much longer. Well, yes, you could have eggs and continue to make hormones for a longer time, but please think twice because it's not an ideal situation. It brings many additional factors that complicate the situation for women with PCOS. Just a little side note. What you need to take from this podcast as the most valuable information is that menopause is inevitable. It's like dying. It comes. It's just a matter of time. Perimenopause is how you get to menopause. And there are so many more things other than the ovarian reserve that could make your transition to menopause a smooth or a very difficult one. First of all, what does a perfect smooth transition look like? Well, it looks something like this. You would continue to have normal periods once a month, rather predictably, for as long as possible into your late 40s and early 50s, maybe into mid 50s. You would continue to display and enjoy good energy levels. That equals the absence of fatigue. You would have good quality and quantity sleep. You would be able to sleep 7 to 8 hours easily and wake up in the morning refreshed and ready to start your day. You would have good mood. You would not suffer from any unexplained anxieties. You would not feel sad or depressed, especially in a cyclical fashion. And you would definitely not be irritable around your husband, children, or coworkers. you would have good mental clarity. You would be able to focus easily on your tasks and have reasonable good recall memory about people's names, things you've done, etc. Where'd you put your keys? You should have a stable weight. No significant weight gain after 35, after 40, after 45, or after 50. When you cross those barriers, you should be flexible and you should not feel stiffness in your joints, your muscles, and you should be able to engage in regular daily activities and exercise with pretty good stamina and endurance and have good recovery and excellent motivation to want to be physical. If I bet $1,000 that most of you listening are thinking, well, that's just the perfect picture of health, and that's not real and not really achievable in today's modern society, if I bet $1,000 that this is possible, I would lose that bet. And yes, you got the point of today's podcast. You can probably just stop listening after this. Of course, I'm kidding. Please continue listening. I have more to say. But here's the point. The better you feel, the better you look. And the better outstanding health you have during your late 30s and early 40s to mid 40s, the easier your transition to a smooth menopause will be. Let me repeat this because this is important. The better you feel, the better you look, and the better outstanding health you have during your late 30s and 40s, this decade of 40s specifically, then the easier your transition to a smooth menopause will be. Now, do I have the secret to perfect health during perimenopause? Of course I do. And unfortunately, or let's say fortunately, it's not a secret. The secret to perfect health and perfect perimenopause is eating a perfect diet, living in a perfect environment where you're absolutely happy every day of your life, having the perfect exercise regimen, and breathing the perfect air. Now, you're probably going to tell me to get lost at this point, and I wouldn't blame you, because do we have these 4 things in our lives? No, we do not. We live in a modern, polluted world, and everybody wants something every 5 minutes from us, right? Maybe every minute sometimes. Now, you might have heard on the news, depending on what media channels you listen to and watch, about how we should make America healthy again, the MAHA movement. The people who discuss this topic have a very valid point, and they're pretty right on point about the fact that America is not healthy. But that's not just America, the world population is not healthy. We are facing an unprecedented level of obesity, chronic illness, infertility, and autoimmune disease, as well as mental health issues. If that's not enough to scare you, the fact that should be very scary is that this trend cannot continue because the health of your children and our future generations for humanity depends on us, the mature adults of today, and our actions. So one easy action you can take is your first step towards a healthier you, whatever that might look like for you. Maybe you just change and tweak something about your diet. Maybe you just change or tweak something about your exercise. Maybe you take some action about those energy drainers, those people in your life that just suck the life out of you. Maybe you change your job and your career because you realize that's not what you want to do and you're unhappy. There could be a lot of things, right? But to allow me to get back on the theme on track here, which is how you prepare for menopause, as a young woman in perimenopause, well, that's simple. You need to enter perimenopause in a super healthy, super balanced state. And you ideally need to keep this super healthy, super balanced state all throughout perimenopause until you reach menopause. And then it's all a piece of cake afterwards, right? That doesn't sound true, does it? It has the ring of a fairy tale, and I'm not in the business of making promises that cannot be delivered. So let me be honest with you. There are women who live healthy and are rather balanced during perimenopause, but they still have a rough time during menopause. Fatigue, emotional, crazy mood swings, weight issues, recall memory, foggy, forgetful, muscle mass loss, wrinkles, hair loss. I mean, it goes on and on and on, right? I like to use this analogy about perimenopause and menopause to make women understand easily what's in store for them during perimenopause. So let me reiterate what I use on my social media a little bit sometimes. Imagine menopause as a lake. You are in a boat with no oars and no wind. There's minimal movement because there are no variations and your hormones are gone. There are no more ups and downs. It's complete and total stillness. Again, on a lake, in a boat, with no oars and no wind. Imagine perimenopause as a large body of water. Could be a sea, could be an ocean. There's no land in sight, but you know the land is there, you just can't see it. You are in the same boat, but you have oars, you have lots of wind. Sometimes you have gusts of wind, sometimes you have little peaceful low wind. You are caught in a tempest very often. There are waves that crash over your boat over and over again. And there are highs when you're on top of a wave and it brings hope. And you feel better and you can see the horizon again. Maybe a glimpse of the faraway land you want to get to. So you have hope for a little while. And then once you crested the wave, you go down and the wave crashes on top of you again. So menopause is stillness and quiet on the hormone front, especially estrogen front. Whereas perimenopause is very up and down. And that is also very true for your symptoms. Energy up and down, mood up and down, sleep up and down, your periods are all over the place because your hormones are up and down. They're not balanced anymore because your estrogen is declining. Your progesterone could be minimal or not enough to balance your estrogen. So it's insufficient. And in most women, by now, the testosterone is very low. Now, menopause is easy to manage. You can give someone oars to steer the boat, and you can provide some wind, both of them in the form of hormone replacement therapy or other supportive therapy. Perimenopause, it's much more difficult to manage because your own hormones are going to do their own thing, whatever that is, and you sometimes feel that you are at their mercy. So understanding and knowing what is happening is absolutely key. And it's crucial to a smooth navigation through this crazy time of a woman's life, right? So what do you need to know and what do you need to be prepared for during perimenopause and especially, unfortunately, worse after menopause? What you need to be prepared for and educated is how your body is going to either slow down gradually or slam the brakes on your metabolic rate, creating significant weight gain, or making it impossible to lose weight, which has never happened before as you're always able to bounce back from the indulgence of things. Now it's much harder or impossible. What you need to be prepared for is how your ovaries will start to respond slower to your brain signals telling them to release eggs, which can lead to hot flashes and night sweats. And those could come as early as your early 40s, late 40s. Once you get used to the hot flashes, they're no longer that big of a nuisance. They can be managed with breathing, with exercise, diet adjustments. But what you're not being told is that hot flashes are the tip of the iceberg. Hot flashes are not the most bothersome symptom of menopause, right? What you need to be prepared for, and again, preparation is the key to a resolution, right? Because you have awareness. What you need to be prepared for is the way your sexual wellness and intimacy will change. Because you will most likely start losing interest in being intimate. And on top of all that, even though you love your partner or your husband and you want to continue to stay intimate, that might become difficult because you now have to make amends and modifications and address vaginal dryness and painful sex. What you need to prepare for is the mood changes that the decline in your sexual hormones will cause. You can easily become prone to bouts of depression or low mood and feel sad and unmotivated for no reason. You can easily start feeling anxiety again for no reason, or you become easily overwhelmed by stress. The truth is, normal optimal levels of sex hormones support everything else in your body, including a normal thyroid and normal adrenal function. Therefore, your stress resiliency, your resilience to stress, is better when you have optimal sex hormones. Losing your sex hormones, which is estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, or experiencing a decline is one of the main reasons why women feel so easily overwhelmed by stress at both perimenopause and menopause. You're not getting older. It's not aging. It's simply the loss of estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone, or the imbalance of these three hormones. I, again, spoke extensively and at length about the role of estrogen, the role of progesterone, and the role of testosterone in the human female body at the beginning of my podcast series when I launched it in August of 2023, because I felt it's really important to bring awareness to the general public of how important these hormones are. What you need to be prepared for is understanding the value and the role that each one of these hormones is playing within your body's mechanisms. Because your body is a well-oiled machine that suddenly loses its grease, its oil, when the sex hormones become imbalanced or are in a steady downward decline, spiraling down to nothing. What you need to be prepared for, as well as your family, is the crazy ways your body will change and it will feel like it no longer belongs to you, that you are no longer the same person or that you no longer have control over how you look and how you feel. These hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, especially estrogen, have gotten a bad reputation from the medical community, and wrongfully so, because these are the hormones that keep you toned, energized, and motivated. Without them, your body will start to get all kinds of flabby, soft, and thick in the midsection, and that's another thing you need to know. You will start getting weaker. You will no longer be able to do the same exercises or at the same intensity and recover as fast as you used to. And I'm literally scratching the surface, and I don't want to take longer than what I've already taken talking about the changes that are going to come that are brought on by the decline in your hormones. But there are so many more changes. Your vision will change. Everybody's changed their vision in their 40s. Your joint health will change, your hair, your skin, your internal health, especially your cardiovascular health. Your cholesterol, your blood sugar, your blood pressure. Again, there are too many changes to even consider. And I've talked about what the hormones do. So everything that they do that you no longer have the ability to do is because you lose these hormones. Okay? But what's most important, it will change the way you react to stress. And believe it or not, low hormones and perimenopause could be the reason why so many marriages finally break when a couple goes through their 40s and 50s. They find they no longer have anything else in common. It wasn't because they didn't love each other enough or they fell out of love. They loved each other enough to have children and raise them and be together for decades. It's because they've become different people. And a lot of it has to do with hormone decline. I make a point in one of my Instagram videos that should women start testing and addressing testosterone levels early on in perimenopause, maybe many marriages will be saved. Doesn't mean it's always the woman's fault or the hormones of a woman are always to blame, because it needs two to tango. The men are going through stuff themselves. But imagine if your resilience to stress, your ability to handle your partner's personality and his needs as he is aging and his demand for intimacy continues, and your ability to enjoy intimacy would remain strong throughout perimenopause and did not decline, creating an imbalance between the two of you. Imagine how much stronger that relationship and the bond between the two of you would be, allowing you and your partner as a couple to weather things together easier, allowing the bond between your two people, you and your husband, you and your partner, to remain strong, even though it will constantly be tested by parental, familial, financial, career, or all kinds of other kinds of stressors, right? Why testosterone? Why am I singling out testosterone out of these three hormones? It is the first hormone to decline, and it's literally a magic hormone for perimenopause. Once it's gone, and it's not really going to come back. And testosterone can help a woman lose weight. It can help her stay strong and fit. It can help her stabilize her mood. It can help her be less irritable, take away the irritability completely. It can lift the woman out of depression. It can give her lots of energy. It can increase her sexual desire, which is last but not least. So honestly, what is there not to like? Please forward this episode to someone you know who might be struggling with these issues, because testosterone therapy might change their life and save their job or marriage. I'm not saying this is the one and only solution, and that there are no strings attached like possible side effects if not balanced right, or that it's not financially burdensome, but it could again be a lifesaver. I also dedicated an episode on how you can boost your testosterone naturally, but that's more applicable to women in their 20s and 30s. Go back and listen to my October 2023 episodes about menopause. But bottom line, it all comes down to lifestyle changes, diet, exercise, stress management, eliminating all energy drainers and stressors that damage your sleep and hormones. It is a lot easier to just replace testosterone with a cream or pellets. Plus, if you simply try to boost testosterone naturally, eventually the lifestyle changes can only go so far before your body stops responding and runs out of it completely. And then testosterone replacement therapy is the only choice. Now, I honestly believe testosterone for women is so useful that maybe 10 to 20 years from now should be or could be standard of care for perimenopause management. It does not increase risk of breast or uterine cancer. On the contrary, it does not make you bleed. It does not require progesterone to balance like estrogen. It has many, many benefits and very few downsides or side effects. So I really hope there will be more research going into testosterone therapy for women. So the best pearl of wisdom to get from this episode is to think ahead. Educate yourself about perimenopause and menopause. Educate yourself about hormones, and best you can do is gain the knowledge you need to know what to look for in terms of warning signs that something is happening to your hormones to help you make the executive decision. Will you or will you not need hormone therapy? But if you're there, wherever you are, you need to know what you can do with the help of your doctor. You need the help of someone qualified to help you understand the hormonal fluctuations and what your sex hormones do in your body. Again, go back to the beginning of my podcast when I launched it, because I started talking about estrogen, progesterone, testosterone quite a bit. I think I might have like 10 episodes about that. Very valuable information about the basics. Come back next week when I continue this conversation by taking it deeper into the hormone layers of hormone replacement therapy and whether or not we should do hormone replacement therapy in perimenopause and after menopause. Thank you so much for listening. If you are one of my faithful listeners and you are finding value and enjoying these episodes, please feel free to leave me a review on whatever platform you're listening to. Also, if you find the content in these topics useful, not just to you, but to someone else, a friend, a loved one, or simply an acquaintance that you know could benefit from the knowledge I share here, please feel free to forward my podcast to them. If you live in California and you'd like to work with our practice to help you achieve your wellness goals, please go to our website, www.herabeautyandwellness.com, and request an appointment. It will be our privilege to help you in any way, shape, and form we can. Any suggestions on a topic of beauty, wellness, or anti-aging are welcome. All you have to do is go to the website, leave a suggestion into the AI chat, and I promise you if you ask, I will listen and add your suggestion to my list of topics that I want to get to as soon as possible. Please join our Facebook group, The Wellness Optimizing Warrior MD. It's a small growing community that focuses on wellness, on what's new, what's safe, and what works in beauty, wellness, and anti-aging.